Black girl's boyfriend yelled, "You're dead when we get home." What the Korean Mafia boss did next left him terrified. "You're dead when we get home." For words that sliced through the ambient chatter of Fusion 82, one of the most exclusive restaurants in the city. That made Jasmine's blood freeze in her veins as she sat across from the man who was supposed to love her. The server had simply complimented Jasmine's artwork. That was all. A quick glimpse at her phone screen when she'd been checking a message, revealing one of her latest paintings. "That's stunning work," the server had said. "Are you a professional artist?" Such an innocent question. Such a deadly sin in Derek's eyes. The rage that contorted Derek's handsome face wasn't new. Jasmine had seen it before. In their apartment when she'd mentioned wanting to submit work to a gallery, in the car when a friend had called to catch up, in the bedroom when she'd worn a dress he decided was too revealing. But never in public. Never so raw and unfiltered. Never so terrifying. The elderly couple at the next table glanced over, then quickly away, their faces a mixture of discomfort and that familiar studied indifference that screamed, "Not my problem." The businessman at the bar pretended not to hear. The hostess suddenly found something fascinating to adjust on her tablet. Nobody was going to help. Nobody ever did. 3 years of this. 3 years of walking on eggshells, of second-guessing every word, every outfit, every brushstroke. 3 years of watching her vibrant, colorful life drain to gray as Derek systematically cut away everyone and everything that made her who she was. Her art, relegated to a hobby, that took time away from him. Her friends. Suddenly, toxic, or jealous, or bad influences. Her family, too controlling, when they expressed concerns about her increasingly withdrawn behavior. Jasmine's gaze dropped to her still full plate. The Wagyu beef that had seemed so mouth-watering when she ordered it now looked like flesh-colored clay. She couldn't eat. Couldn't move. Couldn't breathe past the knot of fear tightening her throat. She'd seen that look in Derek's eyes before. It meant there would be consequences. It meant bruises in places her clothes would cover. It meant destruction, her canvases torn, her brushes broken, her spirit crushed a little more. "I asked you a simple question," Derek continued, his voice dangerously soft now, measured control replacing the initial explosion. That was worse somehow. When he shouted, at least she knew where the line was. When he went quiet like this, the line kept moving. "What have I told you about your little drawings?" "They're not." The words died on her lips. Defending her art would only make it worse. "They're not what?" "Not important." "Because that's right, they're not. Not compared to us. Not compared to everything I've done for you." Everything he'd done for her. The phrase echoed in her mind like a sick joke. What had he done except take and take and take until she barely recognized herself anymore? The girl who'd graduated top of her class from Howard with dreams of showing in galleries across the country now worked as an administrative assistant at his law firm, her degree collecting dust, her canvases hidden in a closet like shameful secrets. She didn't notice the man watching from the corner booth. Not at first. He sat alone, which was unusual for such a high-end place on a Friday night. Most people came to Fusion 82 to see and be seen, to celebrate business deals or anniversaries or to impress first dates with $200 entrees and wine that cost more than Jasmine's first car. Subscribe now to see what happens next in Jasmine's story. Stories like this happen every day and many don't end well. If you don't subscribe, at least leave a comment explaining why you're okay with missing these important life lessons. This man looked like he belonged to a different world entirely. His charcoal suit was impeccably tailored, his dark hair styled with precision. He was undeniably handsome, with sharp cheekbones and eyes that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. But it wasn't his appearance that finally caught Jasmine's attention, it was his unwavering focus. While everyone else in the restaurant was working hard to ignore the scene unfolding at her table, this man was watching. Not with voyeuristic interest or uncomfortable embarrassment, but with something that looked unsettlingly like recognition. "I'm going to the bathroom," Derek announced, tossing his napkin on the table. "When I get back, we're leaving. And when we get home." He let the threat hang in the air, unfinished but unmistakable. As he stood, he leaned close to her ear, his breath hot and sour with expensive scotch. "Don't even think about trying anything stupid." As if she would. As if she could. Where would she go? What would she do? Derek handled their finances, because artists are so bad with money, baby. Derek had the keys to their apartment, because you're always losing things. Derek had systematically ensured she had nowhere to turn, no one to call, no escape route that wouldn't lead to something worse than what she already endured. And then the man moved. He didn't rush. Didn't look around nervously or check to see if anyone was watching. He simply stood from his table, buttoned his suit jacket with an elegant flick of his wrist, and walked purposefully toward her. Before Jasmine could react, he was sliding into Derek's vacant seat as smoothly as if he'd been invited. "My name is Minho Kong," he said, his voice deep and accented with the subtle cadence of someone who learned English young but not as a first language. "And you need to listen carefully because your boyfriend will return in approximately 90 seconds. Panic seized Jasmine's chest. "Please," she whispered, "you don't understand. If he sees you here." "He won't do anything," Minho interrupted, absolute certainty in his voice. "Not tonight. Not ever again if you don't want him to." The conviction in his tone made her pause. There was no question there, no hesitation, just a statement of fact delivered with such quiet authority that for a moment, Jasmine almost believed him. "You don't know him," she said, her voice barely audible. "I know men like him," Minho replied, his dark eyes holding hers with an intensity that should have been uncomfortable but somehow wasn't. "I've known hundreds. They're all the same. They find someone brilliant, someone with light inside them, and they cannot rest until they've extinguished it." Something about the way he said it, so matter-of-fact, so familiar with the pattern, made Jasmine's chest tighten. The stranger had just articulated in a single sentence what she'd been unable to explain to herself for years. "I'm fine," she said automatically. It was what she always said, what she'd been trained to say, to her cousin Maya who'd stopped calling after Derek accidentally broke her phone, to her former professor who'd reached out about a gallery opportunity, to the neighbor who'd once asked about the shouting. "You're not fine," Minho said simply. "And it will get worse. You know this already." She did. God help her, she did. "Why do you care?" The question came out more bitter than she intended. "You don't even know me." Something flickered across Minho's face, an emotion too quick to name before his features settled back into their careful composure. "Let's just say I have a particular dislike for men who threaten women in public restaurants." He reached into his jacket and placed a business card on the table between them. It was thick, expensive stock with just a name, 2 phone numbers, and an address embossed in silver. "The first number is for my gallery. The second is for emergencies." Gallery? Despite everything, Jasmine's artist's soul stirred with interest. "My legitimate business," Minho said with the ghost of a smile. "Among others." "He's coming back," Jasmine whispered, spotting Derek's reflection in the mirrored wall behind Minho. Panic seized her chest. "Please, you have to go. Let him see me." Minho didn't move, didn't even glance in Derek's direction, though he must have known the man was approaching. "The question is, do you want help, or do you want to keep pretending that this is love?" The words hit Jasmine like a physical blow. Before she could answer, Derek was there, his face flushing dark with anger as he registered the stranger sitting in his seat. "What the fuck is this?" Derek demanded, his hands curling into fists at his sides. "Who the hell are you?" Minho stood slowly, gracefully. He was taller than Derek by several inches, broader through the shoulders. When he turned to face him, Jasmine saw Derek take an instinctive step back. I'm someone who overheard you threatening this young woman, Minho said, his voice calm but carrying an undercurrent of steel. And I thought I should introduce myself. This is none of your business, Derek snarled, though his usual confidence seemed to waver slightly. Jasmine, get your things. We're leaving. Jasmine started to rise, pure instinct and conditioned obedience taking over. But Minho's next words froze her in place. She's not going anywhere with you tonight. The restaurant had gone silent. Other diners were watching openly now, the pretense of ignoring the situation abandoned in the face of such blatant confrontation. Jasmine felt the weight of their stares, the pressure of the moment crushing her chest. She couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Derek laughed, but there was no humor in it. Listen, buddy, I don't know who you think you are. Minho Kong, Minho repeated, as if Derek might have missed it the first time. The name hung in the air between them. Something shifted in Derek's expression. The anger drained away, replaced by something that looked disturbingly like recognition. Then fear. Kong. Derek's voice had lost its edge. As in. Yes, Minho said, his expression unchanged. That Kong. Jasmine had no idea what they were talking about. The name meant nothing to her, but it clearly meant something to Derek. Something significant enough that the color had drained from his face. I didn't know, Derek said quickly, his tone suddenly placating. I didn't realize you were. I mean, Jasmine is my girlfriend. This is just a private matter between us. Nothing you said tonight was private, Minho countered, gesturing to the restaurant around them. Everyone here heard you, including me, and I've decided I don't like it. Look, I apologize if I was out of line. Derek's entire demeanor had transformed, his earlier rage replaced by a desperate attempt at damage control. But Jasmine and I have been together for 3 years. This is just a misunderstanding. Minho turned to Jasmine, and the full weight of his attention felt like standing in a spotlight. Is that true? Is this a misunderstanding? Every eye in the restaurant was on her now. Jasmine felt the pressure of their stares, the silent judgment, the expectation that she would do what women always did, smooth things over, make excuses, protect the man who never protected her. She looked at Derek, the man she'd spent 3 years trying to please, trying to love, trying not to anger. Then she looked at Minho, this stranger who had no reason to defend her, but was doing it anyway. No, Jasmine whispered, the word feeling like jumping from a great height. What? Derek's face contorted with disbelief. No, she said again, louder this time, her voice finding strength she didn't know she still possessed. It's not a misunderstanding. I don't want to go home with you tonight. You don't mean that, Derek insisted, stepping toward her. You're confused. This guy is confusing you. I think the lady was clear, Minho's voice cut through Derek's protests like a blade. She's not leaving with you. Like hell, Derek reached for Jasmine's arm. He didn't get close. Minho moved faster than Jasmine would have thought possible for a man his size. One moment he was standing beside the table, the next he had Derek's wrist locked in his grip, bending it at an angle that made Derek gasp in pain. If you touch her, Minho said, his voice so low that Jasmine barely heard it, you will lose that hand. Do we understand each other? Derek nodded frantically, his face pale. Minho released him with a slight push that sent Derek stumbling backward. As if conjured from thin air, 2 men in dark suits materialized from somewhere in the restaurant. They flanked Derek, their expressions blank, their presence unmistakably threatening. Escort Mr. Minho glanced at Jasmine with a questioning look. Wallace, she supplied weakly. Escort Mr. Wallace out, Minho finished. Make sure he understands that he's not welcome back at any establishment I have an interest in, which in this city is most of them. The men nodded. They didn't grab Derek. They didn't need to. Their mere presence was enough to get him moving toward the exit. Derek shot Jasmine a look over his shoulder, part fury, part betrayal, wholly menacing. "This isn't over," he called out. "You hear me, Jasmine? This isn't." One of the suited men said something too low for Jasmine to hear. Derek went quiet, and then he was gone. Jasmine sat frozen in her chair, her whole body trembling. It had happened so fast. One moment she'd been preparing for the worst night of her life, the next, Derek was being escorted out by men who looked like they ate people like him for breakfast. The relief that flooded her was so intense it felt like pain, her lungs burning as she finally remembered to breathe. Minho returned to his own table, gathering his things. He paused, looking at her still sitting shell-shocked in her chair. "You should eat something," he said gently. "You've gone pale." "I don't." Jasmine's hands were shaking so badly she couldn't hold her fork. "I don't understand what just happened." "You stood up for yourself," Minho said simply. "Possibly for the first time in a long while. But who are you?" She looked at him properly now, really looked. "What did you say your name was again?" "Minho Kong. And that means something." Derek knew that name. Derek is a small, insecure man who watches too many gangster movies and understands just enough about this city's power structure to be afraid of the right people. "Are you?" Jasmine couldn't quite bring herself to say it. "A criminal?" Minho smiled slightly, but it didn't reach his eyes. "That depends entirely on who you ask. But yes, I suppose by some definitions, I am." She should have been terrified. Should have grabbed her purse and run for the exit. Instead, she asked, "Why did you help me?" He was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was softer. "My sister was engaged to a man like Derek once. By the time I realized how bad it had gotten, it was almost too late." His expression hardened. "But I learned something from that experience. Learned that sometimes the most important thing you can do is simply refuse to look away." Tears were streaming down Jasmine's face now, though she hadn't felt them start. "I don't know what to do," she confessed. "I don't know where to go. We live together, and all my things are at his apartment, and my car." "Breathe," Minho said gently. "One problem at a time. Where is his apartment?" Jasmine gave him the address, her voice shaking. Minho pulled out his phone and made a call. The conversation was brief, in Korean, and ended with what sounded like firm instructions. "In 1 hour," he told Jasmine, "all of your belongings will be packed and removed from that apartment. They will be taken to a secure location until you decide where you'd like them delivered. Your car will also be retrieved and brought to you." "I can't, that's too much." "I can't ask you to." "You didn't ask. I offered." He signaled to their waiter, who appeared instantly. "Please bring the lady some hot tea and perhaps your chocolate torte. The shock will fade faster with sugar." The waiter nodded and disappeared. Jasmine wiped her eyes with her napkin. "I don't even know how to thank you." "Don't thank me yet," Minho said, his expression serious. "The hard part is just beginning." "What do you mean?" "Derek won't let this go easily. Men like him never do. They view women as property, as extensions of their own ego. When you walk away, and you are walking away, he will try to get you back. And when that doesn't work, he will try to hurt you." The word sent ice through her veins. "So what am I supposed to do?" Minho gestured to the business card still lying on the table between them. "You call that second number if he contacts you, if he shows up at your work, if he sends flowers or texts or shows any sign of not accepting that it's over. And someone will handle it." "Handle it how?" "In whatever way is necessary to ensure your safety." Jasmine stared at the card. She should refuse it. Should tell this dangerous, mysterious stranger that she could handle her own problems. But she couldn't. Not alone. And they both knew it. She took the card. There's something else, Minho said, his tone shifting slightly. Something I should tell you. What? When I saw you tonight, sitting across from that man, trying to make yourself invisible. He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. I recognized something. Not just the fear, I've seen that before. But you. Something about you felt familiar. We've never met, Jasmine said, confused. No, but I think perhaps we were meant to. It was an odd thing to say, romantic, maybe, if the circumstances were different. But there was no flirtation in his tone, no suggestion, just a simple statement of something he believed to be true. The waiter returned with tea and dessert. Jasmine hadn't thought she could eat, but the first bite of rich chocolate was so comforting she nearly cried again. Minho watched her with something that might have been satisfaction. What will you do now? He asked. I don't know. My cousin Maya might let me stay with her for a while. My parents live in Atlanta, but I can't. Jasmine shook her head. They never liked Derek. I spent so long defending him to them. I can't face them yet. Your cousin. Call her tonight. Don't wait. It's late. Real friends don't care about the hour when someone needs help. He was right, of course. Jasmine pulled out her phone and sent a text to Maya. They'd been inseparable throughout college, almost like sisters. Then Derek had happened, and the distance had grown, another relationship sacrificed on the altar of his jealousy and control. The response came within seconds, pack a bag. I'm coming to get you. Are you safe? Fresh tears welled up. She's coming. Good. Minho stood and pulled out his wallet, dropping several bills on the table, far more than his meal would have cost. I'll wait with you until she arrives. You don't have to. I do. They moved to the restaurant's lobby, away from the curious stares of other diners. Jasmine clutched her purse and Minho's business card like lifelines. 20 minutes passed in surprisingly comfortable silence. Minho made no attempt at small talk, didn't try to fill the quiet with platitudes or questions or demands for gratitude. He simply stood near the window, hands in his pockets, radiating a calm authority that made Jasmine feel safer than she had in years. When Maya's car pulled up, Minho walked Jasmine to the door. Will I see you again? Jasmine asked, then immediately felt foolish. Why would she? He'd done what needed doing, rescued the damsel in distress. His part was over. But Minho smiled. Really smiled this time, and it transformed his whole face, softening the hard edges, reaching his eyes with genuine warmth. I think you will. In fact, I'm quite certain of it. Why? Because I'm going to ask you to show me your art. Not tonight, not tomorrow, but soon. When you're ready. Jasmine's breath caught. I don't think I'm ready for. Not now, he interrupted gently. Take your time. Heal. Find yourself again. But when you're ready. He gestured to the card still clutched in her hand. You know how to reach me. Maya burst through the restaurant door like an avenging angel, her braids flying, eyes blazing with protective fury. She took one look at Jasmine's tear-stained face and pulled her into a fierce hug. I'm going to kill him, Maya muttered. I'm going to absolutely murder him. No need, Minho said mildly. I believe that's been handled. Maya looked at him properly for the first time. Her eyes widened in recognition. Holy shit, you're Minho Khan. You know him? Jasmine asked, surprised. Know of him, Maya corrected, her expression shifting to something between awe and wariness. My firm represented one of his companies last year. Half the buildings downtown have Kong Investment Group plaques in their lobbies. That's an exaggeration, Minho said, his face impassive. It's more like a third. He said it so deadpan that Jasmine almost laughed. Almost. Take care of her, Minho told Maya. Then, to Jasmine, what you did tonight took courage. Remember that. Then he was gone, disappearing back into the restaurant like smoke. Maya stared after him, then turned to Jasmine with wide eyes. Okay, so we're going to need about 6 bottles of wine and 12 hours because you're going to tell me every single detail of whatever the hell just happened. Jasmine let herself be led to the car. As they pulled away from Fusion 82, she caught one last glimpse of Minho through the window. He'd returned to his table, alone again, his meal barely touched. She wondered what kind of man ate alone at expensive restaurants on Friday nights. What kind of man stepped into a stranger's nightmare without hesitation? What kind of man he really was? The next 2 weeks were a blur. Jasmine moved into Maya's spare room, surrounded by boxes of belongings that had appeared exactly as Minho promised. Her car showed up in Maya's driveway the next morning, keys in an envelope with no return address. Her art supplies, which she'd been certain Derek would have destroyed in rage, arrived neatly packed, not a single canvas damaged, not one brush broken. Derek tried to contact her. 17 texts, 9 phone calls, 4 emails, each one cycling through anger and apology and threats and promises to change. Jasmine blocked his number, blocked his email, changed her passwords. She also called the second number on Minho's card. The first time was on day 3, when Derek showed up at the marketing firm where she worked. He didn't make it past the lobby. 2 security guards appeared from nowhere and escorted him out. Jasmine never learned who called them. The second time was on day 7, when she got a voicemail from Derek's mother explaining that her son was heartbroken and confused, that Jasmine owed him an explanation, that 3 years together meant something. That call was returned by someone else. Jasmine didn't know what was said, but Derek's mother never contacted her again. By day 10, the text stopped. The calls ended. Derek seemed to have finally understood that it was over. Jasmine started sleeping through the night again, started eating regular meals, started remembering what it felt like to breathe without that constant knot of anxiety in her chest. I'm about to reveal how Minho helps Jasmine in a way no one helped me. Subscribe now because I can't guarantee this content will remain free. Too many stories go untold. If you're still scrolling without subscribing, please comment below and explain to our community why these stories aren't worth your support. On day 14, she called Minho's card again, but this time she didn't have a problem to report. I'd like to speak with Minho Kong, she told whoever answered. There was a pause. May I tell him who's calling? Jasmine. He'll know. 2 minutes later, Minho's voice came through the line. Are you all right? Yes, actually. I'm better than all right. She took a deep breath. I wanted to thank you for everything. You don't need to. And I wanted to know if that invitation to show you my art was still open. Another pause, longer this time. It is, Minho said finally. But I should warn you, Jasmine. I'm not a simple man. My life is complicated. Dangerous, sometimes. If you start down this path, you need to understand what you're walking into. I think I do. No, he said gently, you really don't. But I'd like the chance to explain it to you over dinner somewhere with better chocolate torte than you had 2 weeks ago. She laughed. Actually laughed, for the first time in recent memory. When? Tonight, if you're free. I'll send a car for you at 7. I can drive myself. Humor me. At least for the first meeting. The hesitation before meeting sent butterflies through her stomach. Okay, Jasmine agreed. 7 o'clock. The car that arrived was sleek and black, with a driver in a proper uniform who opened the door for her and called her Miss with genuine respect. Maya watched from the window, phone in hand. I'm tracking your location, she called out. And if you're not back by midnight, I'm calling the police. The police won't help if it's Mr. Kong, the driver said pleasantly. But don't worry, miss. Mr. Kong has instructed me to ensure the lady's complete safety and comfort. Maya looked like she couldn't decide whether to be worried or impressed. Jasmine settled into the leather seat and tried to calm her racing heart. She'd chosen her favorite dress, a vibrant blue that complemented her dark skin, cut to flatter her curves without being overly revealing. She'd worn her hair natural, the way Derek had always complained made her look unprofessional, but which she'd always loved. She'd even brought a portfolio of her work, the pieces she was most proud of, the ones that showed who she really was beneath the layers of self-doubt Derek had heaped on her. For the first time in 3 years, she looked like herself again. Finally. The drive took them outside the city, up into the hills where the houses became estates and the estates became small kingdoms. They turned through iron gates that opened automatically, up a long drive lined with old-growth trees. The house at the end was stunning, not modern flashy, but old-world elegant. Stone and tall windows and gardens that probably required an army of groundskeepers. Minho was waiting at the door. He wore dark slacks and a charcoal shirt, no tie, looking somehow both more relaxed and more imposing than he had in the restaurant. Seeing him here, in his own space, drove home exactly how out of her depth Jasmine was. "You came," he said, something like relief in his voice. "You doubted I would. Hoped you would. Doubted you should." He offered his arm. "Come. I promise the food will be worth the risk." He led her through the house, beautiful, tastefully decorated, clearly expensive, to a terrace overlooking the valley. The city light sparkled below like fallen stars. A table had been set for 2, candles already lit, wine already poured. "No restaurant tonight?" Jasmine asked. "I thought privacy might be appreciated, given that our last public meal didn't go well." "That wasn't your fault. Wasn't it? I did threaten your ex-boyfriend in front of half the city's elite. He deserved it." "He did." Minho pulled out her chair. "But that doesn't mean there won't be consequences, for him certainly, but possibly for you as well." Jasmine sat down. "What kind of consequences?" "People talk. They'll wonder who you are, why I intervened. Some will assume you're connected to my family now, under my protection." He paused. "Which, I suppose, you are. Is that a bad thing?" "That depends." He took his own seat across from her. "How do you feel about having your life completely upended?" "I think it already was," Jasmine said quietly. "You just helped me see it." A woman appeared with the first course, a delicate arrangement of sashimi that looked almost too beautiful to eat. She set down the plates and disappeared without a word. "I owe you honesty," Minho said, "about who I am, what I do." "You're in the Korean Mafia," Jasmine said bluntly. He smiled slightly. "Such an American term, but yes, essentially. My family has been involved in certain enterprises for several generations, real estate mostly these days, import-export, investments. All technically legal. Technically. We've cleaned up our operations significantly. My father was old school, believed in territory and violence and respect earned through fear. I prefer to think of us as businessmen with a complicated past. But the men who escorted Derek out, the people who packed my things, that wasn't just business. No, Minho admitted, that was personal. I have resources, and I chose to use them for you. I'd do it again." "Why?" Jasmine leaned forward. "I still don't understand why you helped me. You didn't know me. I told you, my sister. That's not the whole reason." He was quiet for a long moment, studying her face in the candlelight. "No," he said finally. "It's not." "Then what?" "When I saw you in that restaurant, trying so hard to be small, to disappear, I saw someone who deserved better. Someone who deserved to be protected, not threatened. And he paused. I wanted to be the one to protect you." Jasmine's breath caught. "That probably sounds antiquated," Minho continued. Patriarchal. I'm aware that modern women don't need men to rescue them. But sometimes, Jasmine interrupted softly, it's nice to not have to be strong alone. Their eyes met across the table. Something unspoken passed between them, an understanding that went beyond words. The rest of the meal passed in a blur of conversation. Minho told her about his family, 3 siblings, his mother still alive and terrifyingly formidable, his father dead for 5 years now. He talked about growing up between 2 worlds, Korea and America, tradition and innovation, loyalty and freedom. About slowly transforming the family business into something legitimate, something his future children might not have to hide or be ashamed of. Jasmine talked about her own family, her parents, strict but loving, who'd supported her art until it became clear she wouldn't make money at it, her cousins, especially Maya, who'd been her rock through college, the grandmother who'd taught her to mix colors when she was just 5 years old. She talked about Howard University, about the art degree that had filled her with so much hope, about the slow death of that hope as rejection letters piled up and financial reality set in. About how Derek had seemed like salvation at first, successful, stable, interested in her work, until interest became criticism, and criticism became control, and control became the cage she'd nearly died in. I kept thinking if I just tried harder, she said. If I could just be what he wanted. You would have disappeared entirely, Minho finished. That's what men like him want. Not partners, dolls. How did you know? About your sister. I didn't, not at first. She hid it well. Made excuses for him. But then one day, I stopped by her apartment unannounced and found her with a black eye. She claimed she'd walked into a door. His expression darkened. I made sure he never touched her again. What did you do? Nothing he didn't deserve, Minho's voice had gone cold. And nothing you need to worry about. That chapter is closed. They moved from dinner to dessert to coffee. The conversation flowing easier than Jasmine would have thought possible. Minho was funny when he wanted to be, self-deprecating about his own formality and the intimidation factor he often had on people. He asked questions about her art and actually listened to her answers, showing genuine interest in her techniques and inspirations. Finally, he asked to see her portfolio. Jasmine hesitated only briefly before handing it over. It felt like showing him her soul. Minho looked through each piece slowly, carefully, with the practiced eye of someone who knew art. He asked questions about her process, commented on her use of color, noted influences she hadn't even been conscious of incorporating. These are extraordinary, he said finally, closing the portfolio with gentle reverence. You have a rare gift. Derek said they were childish. Amateur. Derek is an idiot who wouldn't know true art if it hit him in the face. Minho's directness made Jasmine laugh. I have a gallery opening next month. A group show featuring emerging artists. I want your work in it. Jasmine stared at him. You're serious. I don't joke about art or business. But I'm not, I haven't shown in years. My portfolio isn't ready for 3 pieces, Minho interrupted. That's all I'm asking for now. Choose the ones that speak most truly to who you are. It was nearly midnight when Jasmine finally checked her phone and saw 17 increasingly frantic messages from Maya. I should go, she said reluctantly. My cousin thinks you've probably murdered me by now. Can't have that. Minho stood and offered his hand. Instead of leading her back through the house, he walked her to the edge of the terrace where the view stretched out forever. Jasmine, he said quietly. I need you to understand something. What? That night in the restaurant, I told myself I was helping a stranger, doing the right thing. But the truth is, he turned to face her fully. The moment I saw you, something shifted. I can't explain it. I just knew. Knew what? That you were going to matter to me. That this, whatever this is, was going to change my life. Jasmine's heart was pounding. That's a lot of pressure for a first date. I know. And if it's too much, if you want to walk away right now, I'll have the driver take you home and you'll never hear from me again. I promise you that. She should say yes. Should thank him for a lovely evening and go back to her safe, normal, uncomplicated life. Instead, she stepped closer. What if I don't want to walk away? Then I'm going to kiss you, Minho said. And I'm going to ask to see you again. And again after that, until you're so thoroughly part of my life that the thought of you leaving terrifies me. That's quite a plan. I'm a thorough man. He kissed her. It wasn't like kissing Derek. There was no ownership in it, no demand, just warmth and promise and the sense of something beginning. When they broke apart, Jasmine was breathless. So, Minho said, still holding her close. May I see you again? Yes. Tomorrow. Aren't you supposed to wait 3 days? Play it cool. I'm 28 years old. I'm done playing games. Her hand rested against his chest, feeling his heartbeat steady and strong beneath her palm. Besides, I think I knew the moment I saw you too. Knew what? That I was going to paint you someday. The next 6 months were like living in a dream. Minho courted her properly, old-fashioned dates, flowers delivered to Maya's apartment, texts throughout the day just to check on her. He introduced her to his mother, a tiny woman with steel in her eyes, who took one look at Jasmine and announced, finally, someone with backbone. Jasmine met his siblings. His brother Junho, serious and quiet like Minho but with a wicked sense of humor that emerged after a glass of soju. His younger sister, Hannah, who hugged Jasmine immediately and whispered, "Thank God, someone normal." And his older sister, Su-min, the one who'd been in the abusive relationship, who held Jasmine's hands and said, "He told me about you, about what you survived. Welcome to the family." Family. It was a word that held weight in Minho's world. Jasmine learned what it meant to be connected to the Kong name. People treated her differently, held doors, offered seats, looked at her with a mixture of respect and fear. She also learned that Minho's world, while mostly legitimate now, still had its dark corners. There were business meetings he couldn't discuss. Phone calls he had to take in private. Men in suits who appeared at odd hours with urgent information. But he never lied to her. When she asked questions, he answered truthfully, or he told her directly that he couldn't answer. "I won't put you in danger," he said once, after a particularly tense evening where 3 calls had interrupted their dinner. "But I also won't insult you with half-truths. This is who I am. This is the world I live in. Can I live in it too? Do you want to?" Jasmine thought about it. Really thought about the woman she'd been 6 months ago, shrinking in restaurant chairs, afraid of her own boyfriend. About the woman she was now, showing her art in Minho's gallery to rave reviews, reconnecting with friends and family, standing tall in her own skin again. "Yes," she said. "I do." Minho crossed the room in 3 strides and kissed her breathless. "Then we need to make it official." "Official? How?" He pulled a small box from his desk drawer. Vintage, by the look of it. When he opened it, Jasmine gasped. The ring inside was stunning, a blue sapphire surrounded by smaller diamonds, set in platinum. Old-world craftsmanship, clearly an heirloom. "This was my grandmother's," Minho said. "She gave it to me years ago. Told me to save it for someone worthy. Someone with fire in her soul." He dropped to one knee. "Marry me, Jasmine. Not because I saved you, we both know you saved yourself. But because I love you. Because you make me want to be better than the sum of my family's sins. Because I look at you and see my future." Jasmine's hands were shaking. "Yes. Yes, I'll marry you." He slid the ring on her finger. It fit perfectly. They were married 3 months later in a ceremony that blended both their cultures. His Korean traditions and her Black Baptist heritage. Maya was maid of honor and spent the entire reception making jokes about how she'd always known Jasmine would either end up with a prince or a gangster, and technically Minho was both. Derek sent flowers. They were intercepted before Jasmine ever saw them, and she never asked what happened to them. Some things were better left unknown. The wedding night, Minho carried her over the threshold of their home and kissed her in the foyer like it was the first time. "I have something to tell you," he said. "Should I be worried?" "That depends. How do you feel about setting up an arts foundation for at-risk youth and survivors of domestic violence?" Jasmine pulled back to look at him. "What?" "I'm establishing a foundation. Art therapy, supplies, mentorship, exhibition opportunities. I want you to run it." He touched her face. "I'm putting significant money behind it. Enough to make a real difference. But I need someone I trust at the helm. Someone who understands both the art and the pain." Tears welled in Jasmine's eyes. "Minho, You don't have to decide. Now. Think about it. But I believe you could change lives, Jasmine. The way you changed mine. The way you changed mine. You saved me." "No," he said firmly. "You saved yourself. I just made sure you were safe while you did it. There's a difference." She kissed him then, deep and long and full of promise. Later, lying in bed with city lights filtering through the windows, Jasmine thought about that night in the restaurant. About the woman she'd been, scared, small, trapped. About the moment everything changed. "What are you thinking?" Minho asked, his arm around her shoulders. "That I should probably send Derek a thank you card." "Why?" "Because if he hadn't yelled that threat, if you hadn't overheard, if everything hadn't happened exactly the way it did." She turned to look at her husband. "I might never have found you." "You would have," Minho said with certainty. "Maybe not that night. Maybe not for months or years, but eventually, somehow, we would have found each other. I believe that. Fate. Something like that." Jasmine settled back against his chest, the sapphire ring catching the light. "I'm glad it was that night, though. I'm glad I didn't waste any more time." "So am I." They fell asleep like that, wrapped around each other. Two souls from different worlds that had somehow found a way to fit together perfectly. And in the morning, Jasmine woke up not to threats or criticism or fear, but to the smell of coffee and the sound of her husband talking softly on the phone in Korean. She smiled, got out of bed, went to join him. After all, this was only the beginning. The real story, their story, was just getting started. 6 months into their marriage, Jasmine was reviewing applications for the Kong Arts Initiative's first scholarship program when her office phone rang. The foundation had already helped dozens of young artists and survivors of domestic violence, providing everything from art supplies to exhibition opportunities to safe housing. "Jasmine Kong," she answered. A woman's voice, shaking. I got your number from the community center. I didn't know who else to call." Jasmine sat up straighter. "What's your name?" "Tiana. Tiana Johnson." "Are you safe right now, Tiana?" "I think so. I'm at a coffee shop, but he knows where I work, where my sister lives, where I go to the gym. He knows everything." A sob broke through. "I left him 3 days ago, and he's been sending me messages. He says if I don't come home by tonight, he's going to make sure I regret it." "Listen to me carefully," Jasmine said, already pulling up her database. "Stay where you are. I'm sending someone to you right now." Jasmine hung up and immediately called the number she'd memorized for emergencies. Not Minho's direct line, he was in meetings all day, but his brother's. Junho answered on the first ring. "Jasmine? I need a pickup. Woman in danger at the Starbucks on Elm Street. Her ex is threatening her. On it. 10 minutes. 20 minutes later, Tiana was in one of the Foundation's emergency apartments, a furnished one-bedroom in a building with excellent security and no public records tying it to the Kong family. Jasmine met her there with groceries and a burner phone. Tiana was young, early 20s, with the hollow-eyed look of someone who hadn't slept in days. "You're really her," she said, staring at Jasmine. "The woman who married Minho Kong after he confronted her abusive boyfriend. Everyone's been talking about it." Jasmine blinked. "There are rumors, I know. It's more than rumors. You're like, hope. That we can get out. That there's something better." Tiana's expression crumpled. "I'm sorry. I know that's a lot to put on you. When I saw your foundation, I thought maybe you'd understand." "I do understand." Jasmine sat down the groceries and moved to sit beside her. "Tell me about him." The story that poured out was achingly familiar. The controlling behavior that started small. The isolation from friends and family. The escalating anger. The feeling of being trapped. "Everyone thinks he's so great," Tiana whispered. "Nobody believes me when I try to tell them what he's really like." "I believe you," Jasmine said simply. "I know him. Maybe not his name or his face, but I know the type. And I know that you're not crazy. You're not overreacting. And you're not alone anymore." Tiana started crying in earnest then. Jasmine let her, offering tissues and quiet comfort until the sobs finally subsided. "What happens now?" Tiana asked. "Now you rest. Tomorrow we'll talk about next steps, restraining order, new job if you need it, therapy, referrals. But tonight, you're safe. The door locks, the building has security, and nobody knows you're here except me and the people who brought you." "What about him? What if he finds me?" Jasmine thought about the resources at her disposal, the network of protection that came with her last name. "He won't," she said. "And if he tries, he'll regret it." That night, as Jasmine recounted the day to Minho, she felt a sense of purpose stronger than anything she'd ever experienced. "It's come full circle," she said. 6 months ago, I was Tiana, terrified, trapped, with nowhere to turn. And now I'm in a position to help others escape. To make sure they know they're not alone. "You were always meant for this," Minho said, pride evident in his voice. "To take what hurt you and transform it into something that heals others. That's rare, Jasmine. That's beautiful." 3 weeks later, the Foundation held its first major exhibition, a showcase of artwork by survivors of domestic violence. Tiana's Piece. A powerful mixed media work about silencing and finding voice again, was prominently displayed. The gallery was packed with supporters, donors, artists, and community members. Jasmine moved through the crowd, explaining the Foundation's mission, introducing artists, celebrating their courage and talent. She didn't notice Derek enter. Not until the murmuring started, not until she felt the atmosphere shift. When she turned, he was standing near the entrance, looking haggard and desperate. Their eyes met across the crowded room, and Jasmine felt a momentary flash of the old fear before something else replaced it, pity. Minho was at her side in an instant, his hand resting protectively at the small of her back. "Security will remove him," he said quietly. "Wait." Jasmine put her hand on Minho's arm. "Let me handle this." She crossed the gallery, aware of every eye on her, aware of Minho's men moving into position, ready to intervene at the slightest signal. When she reached Derek, she stopped just out of arm's reach. "You need to leave," she said, her voice calm but carrying. "You're not welcome here." "I just want to talk," Derek said. His voice had lost its old confidence, the arrogance that had once seemed so much a part of him. 5 minutes, Jasmine. That's all I'm asking. I have nothing to say to you. Please," He reached toward her. Before his hand could make contact, one of Minho's security team stepped between them. Another appeared at Derek's side. They didn't touch him, didn't threaten. They didn't need to. Their presence alone was enough to make Derek step back. You think you're safe because of him? Derek's voice rose, desperation making him reckless. You think he's different? Men like that, they own you. They control you. Just like I. You never owned me, Jasmine interrupted, her voice strong and clear. You tried to break me down until I believed I was nothing without you. Until I believed I deserved your anger, your control, your threats. She looked him straight in the eye. But you failed. I survived you, Derek. I'm thriving without you. And I'm helping other women do the same. The gallery had gone silent, everyone watching this confrontation unfold. Jasmine was aware of Tiana standing nearby, witnessing a woman face down her abuser without flinching. This is your only warning, Jasmine continued. Leave now. Never contact me again. Never come to any event associated with me or my foundation. If you do, there will be consequences. Are you threatening me? Derek's face flushed with the beginnings of his old anger. No, Minho said, appearing at Jasmine's side. She's not threatening you. I am. His voice was quiet, controlled, but carried an unmistakable promise. You will leave this building. You will leave this city. You will forget Jasmine exists. Or I will make sure you regret every breath you take from this moment forward. The color drained from Derek's face. You can't. I can. I will. And unlike you, I don't make threats I can't follow through on. Derek looked from Minho to Jasmine and back again. Whatever he saw in their united front made him take another step back. This isn't over, he said, but the words lacked conviction. It is, Jasmine said simply. It has been since the night you said I was dead. Because the woman you tried to destroy. She died that night. And the woman I am now is someone you will never touch again. Security escorted Derek out. As the door closed behind him, Jasmine felt a weight lift that she hadn't even realized she was still carrying. The gallery erupted in applause, spontaneous, supportive, cathartic. Minho's arm slipped around her waist. You realize you've just become a legend to every woman in this room, he murmured. Jasmine laughed, leaning into him. I was just telling the truth. The truth is powerful, he said. Especially when it comes from someone who's lived it. Later that night, as they walked through the empty gallery after everyone had gone, Jasmine stopped in front of her own contribution to the exhibition, a large canvas dominated by deep blues and blacks, with a single thread of gold running through the darkness, widening gradually until it burst into a sunrise of vibrant colors at the top. Subscribe now or you'll never know what happens next. I've seen people return to harmful situations because they didn't know escape was possible. If you think this story isn't worth your subscription, leave a comment telling us why you're choosing not to learn these important life lessons. From darkness to light, Minho said, standing beside her. It's beautiful. It's us, Jasmine replied. It's me. It's every woman who's ever found her way out of the shadows. Minho turned her gently to face him. You know what I love most about you? Your capacity for transformation. You could have let what happened to you make you bitter, make you afraid. Instead, you turned it into something that helps others find their own strength. I had help, she said, thinking of that night in the restaurant when everything changed. You had support, Minho corrected. The strength was always yours. Jasmine looked around the gallery at the artwork created by women who had survived, who had reclaimed their voices, their power, their lives. At the space she and Minho had created together, a sanctuary, a launching pad, a testament to resilience. You're dead when we get home, Derek had said that night, never imagining that his threat would be the catalyst for her rebirth. That in trying to extinguish her light, he had instead set fire to something inextinguishable within her. Jasmine reached for Minho's hand, the sapphire on her finger catching the gallery lights. "Let's go home," she said. And they did, not to fear, not to threats, not to control, but to the life they had built together. A life where she was not just alive, but truly living. A life that had sprung from the ashes of what Derek had tried to destroy. A life that was, finally and completely, her own.